Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I, as per usual, have had a fairly crazy week. I guess it was kind of like a weird weekend run. I had to work all of like last weekend, and then I was off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday because of Juneteenth, which is when I went and saw this movie. And then I had like 2 days of work, and then right back into weekend things. My cousin's little girl Ada turns 3 this coming week, so she had her birthday party yesterday. So I had like a show in New York Friday night. Then I got home. Then we went to my cousin's. Now I'm back, and I'm like, all of the crazy stuff going on. There are 2 movies that I've seen in the last week that I have not talked about. And I want to start, obviously, with the first one that we saw, which was back around Juneteenth, which follows a group of people who are celebrating Juneteenth up in the cabins when things start to get a little creepy. And if you know anything about me, I love horror, and I love when horror can blend with comedy, and this, for me, is one of the funniest comedies of the year. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair? Take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into The Blackening. And I gotta tell you, man, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I got like so excited because this isn't going to be a scary movie or anything like that, because it's not like parodying any one particular like film or like at any one time one particular film, but they're kind of parodying, black people specifically in horror movies, as well as just black culture in general. But the general vibe that I was kind of feeling was like, this is the type of comedy that would come from like the Wayans brothers, something like Scary Movie. And that got me very, very excited. And yes, I'm not the target demographic. This is a movie that is 100% made for black people. But if you grew up around black culture or consumed black media, which is something that I desperately was always looking to do growing up in a small little suburb that was mostly white, anything that I could get that was not that, I consumed it. But I just have always been enamored, with black culture and humor and things like that. And if you have grown up loving that stuff, this is also going to be a movie for you. And it was great, like being in the theater for this one. While it is very funny, it does also really play kind of like a horror movie. Like it's set up like a horror movie. It has horror moments. There are things that are a little scary, a little jumpy. But at the end of the day, my crowd that I was in during the movie, I haven't been with a crowd that has laughed that hard in a very, very long time. And that's the thing that I think that really makes this one work the best, is the comedy. And we'll start, I guess, because of all of that, with the writers, Tracy and star Dewayne Perkins. Yes, Dewayne Perkins, who we'll talk about on the acting side in a little bit. Also one of the writers here, and I'm telling you, man, Perkins and Oliver, they are just so in tune to what this movie needed to be, right? For those that are unfamiliar, let me set it up for you. 7 black friends go away for the weekend for Juneteenth and get trapped in a cabin in the woods with a killer who has a vendetta. And it's basically, it says, will their street smarts and knowledge of horror movies help save them or help them stay alive? Probably not. That's kind of the general tee-up. And basically when these friends get to the cabin, they find a game room, and in the game room is this game called The Blackening. And, you take off the cover and you open up to this game board, and it's got this demented-looking blackface character, like dead center, that speaks to you. And then there are cards, and every card has a question. If you answer the question right, you move your pieces forward. If you get it wrong, the twist of this game, somebody might die. And that's the thing, like the game in and of itself, if you just start there, really is diving into, different black tropes inside of horror movies, but also into black culture in general. And anytime that they're being asked questions or they're being forced to play the game and answer the questions, some of the questions come out of left field, some of the ones are exactly what you're thinking, and how the group responds to that stuff is just genius. But as they start to go on, they realize there is more going on here than just some effed up game that they think their friends left them. And it really does kind of turn into a horror movie. But all the tropes and things that are addressed directly in the game, Perkins and Oliver spread out throughout the entirety of the movie as well. And whether you're, playing with the general horror group, right? Like one of the biggest tropes in horror movies is that typically the black person dies first. And that obviously is something we saw in the trailers that they play with. And all that stuff is really, really funny. But when you look at the group as a whole, you have your classic horror movie group here. It's just all of them are black people, and how each one of the characters plays into the different tropes of your standard horror movie character, but with that black perspective twist. Like, that's what makes this thing work so well. And the way that Perkins and Oliver can just so seamlessly go from delivering, whether it's a cultural or a societal gag or joke or thing like one-liner, where you're laughing so hard you are near peeing your pants. And I'm telling you, that was my whole audience. But from that, the very next second, you could be jumping out your seat because you're going through a real legit horror bit. And that's the thing where I think Tim's story being involved here, really is what gets this thing to be what you need it to be to pop the way it does. I think the way that story moves the audience through through the story that Perkins and Oliver are telling, it's very visually engaging, and how he sets up, the different gags or different moments. There are these just wonderfully blended, like, there's a scene that involves a lake and two of our characters. It's one of the funniest but simultaneously scariest stretches in the movie, because it so nails all the things that you want a classic horror movie to do, but it is never not looking to satirize and make fun and poke fun and make jokes about the different things that they're talking about. And that blending of that works so well, and story really does just set it up constantly throughout the film to just hit. And then the thing I think that makes this the most special is really the cast. And the thing that I loved was, outside of Jay Farrow and Yvonne Orji, who are our cold open actors, right? Like, if you've ever seen a horror movie, you usually open with something that kind of tees everything up, gets you to the title card, and then we meet your main cast. And Orji and Farrow were the only two that I really knew going in here, and both of them do great stuff. I mean, you get some classic Jay Farrow moments in here, and him and Orji's just general vibe and chemistry is so funny that, they set a real high bar for everything from the horror and the comedy, right out the get-go. And then when you get into this main cast, it's just, they're so good because they're also charismatic, they're also charming, and they all play their roles perfectly. And we'll start with Dewayne Perkins, who is, your traditional horror movie gay friend. Perkins is hysterical. He's best friends with Antoinette Robertson's Lisa. And the other thing I like here is that Perkins, being a writer, gave himself his own name for this movie. His character's name is Dewayne as well. But getting to see how obviously he meshes and works with Lisa, there's a lot of ups and downs to their relationship. But, he hits all those things that make him the character that they're kind of portraying him to be, right? Like the gay best friend. He hits all those beats. But that's the other thing that I love about what Perkins and Oliver do, is that while you're hitting tropes like the gay best friend, your hot girl, your final girl, you got your kind of stoner / gangster funny guy. Like, the way they play with all of them, they also have really dramatic, grounded, rooted elements to them that make them real characters and real people. And that's the thing that I really like, is while you're poking at all the different tropes that happen for each one of these characters traditionally in horror movies, Perkins and Oliver make all these characters real. And Dewayne is just somebody who right away, it was the most obvious MVP in the movie. He gets some of the funniest lines. His, like I said, his chemistry just with the group and how he reacts to things is something that just always kind of lifts any of the scenes that they're in, which is wonderful. But he really is surrounded by a phenomenal cast in all the spots. And like I said, if you're looking at your traditional hot girl in a horror movie, Antoinette Robertson kind of covers you there as Lisa. I like how they utilize her character, and specifically because her character is one of the focal points to some of the subplots that are going on in the movie, and specifically how she interacts with Dewayne and Sinqua Walls, who plays Namdi. Her interactions with those two in particular deliver some of the best moments for her, but she's very charismatic. She's easy to like, but she's also so easy to hate, which is where, you're poking at the right things when it comes to the hot girl. She's got redeeming qualities, and again, things that make her a real character, but there are times where you're just bitch, you know what I mean? And I think she nails that stuff perfectly. Sinqua Walls, who we mentioned, who plays Namdi, is kind of the outside friend in this group, someone that Dewayne is not super excited to be around because of things historically inside of the group that have happened. He's not super excited about it. And Namdi comes in as somebody who is a character that in college had a very specific type and functioned a very specific way, but is someone that maybe has actually grown up a little bit. And the way that they play with Dewayne's, skepticalness of Namdi and how he functions just in and trying to redeem himself to the group quite well. He is like your traditional kind of jock for this movie, and he hits those notes perfectly. And Namdi is somebody, especially if you're identifying with Perkins early on, that you don't necessarily like or trust, especially when you're thinking about like who could be involved in what's happening here. But he is unbelievably charming. Like, he is that hot guy where it's like, you are a dick, but I understand why people like you. And this version of Namdi might not be completely a dick. And that's something that I think Wallace does a really, really good job with in juggling and kind of handling as he goes throughout the movie. Then you have Grace Byers, who could be like hot girl number 2. And in most movies, I would probably say would be teed up to probably be your final girl. Even though she's not the lead, the way Lisa is, like, Byers is the one who's a little bit more wholesome, who, like, if this was a traditional horror movie, probably is someone we'd end up spending more time with and would become, like, the sneaky lead. And she carries all that stuff really well. Her comedy bits are fantastic, specifically when you're talking about that moment that we've seen in the trailers where, like, pick the blackest person in your group and kill them and the rest of you live. And, like, you get to play, Byers gets to play with that in really interesting ways because Allison's parents are mixed. She has a black mom and a white dad. And there are some really, really funny tropes that are mixed in with that and some of the things that they land. But, like, she is, I think, for me, outside of, like I said, Dewayne, who's my, like, immediate MVP. My dark horse is the real MVP. We'll get to Clifton momentarily. But Allison is really, I think, a character that's so easy to attach yourself to. She's, someone that, like, if you were an outsider coming into this group, would probably be the one that you'd get along with quickest or first, if it wasn't Dewayne. And I just think that she handles the sweet girl, like, role pretty well, but she's also a freaking badass. And she gets some really, really funny moments, specifically when it comes to, like, trying to deal with some things that are going on and something that they do doesn't quite work out for her. And really just, again, as someone who brings a lot of laughs, a lot of energy, a lot of charisma. Then you have Shanika, who's played by Ex Mayo. She is the, classically late, loud, brash character in your horror movie, right? Like, someone who's not gonna go first, but she's probably gonna go early in a lot of horror movies, and she's hysterical. Inside of the black friend context, and something that they point out again in that trailer bit that we saw where you're trying to figure out who the blackest person is in the group, Shanika's the person who's dropping the N-word left and right, and that is, I think, if you've kind of been in this culture and consumed this type of media, like, that's a character that when just hearing that, you're like, oh, I already know, man. She just comes in and fills the room up, and everything out of her mouth is hysterical. She is tied to that lake sequence that I was mentioning earlier too, and, like, you just give her moments, and she rises to the occasion over and over again, and really does provide that loud laugh. That can kind of come from those characters. I think she nails that stuff quite well. Then the last person in the group, so to speak, is Melvin Gregg, who plays King. He is our reformed gangster. He hits the tropes of being like the traditional stoner, but like they play with both of those things with the character. And seeing a reformed version of this kid, like, that's the thing that I like is all of these friends knew each other in college. They reference college a lot, and some of them you can see are the same people, but some of them have changed, and Greg is one of those characters where King is a little bit different, even though he does have some things that are so classic to him. Specifically when it comes to making drinks, I think there are some really funny things there. But throughout the course of the movie, I think, like I said, he's the character that I naturally kind of gravitate towards, being the stoner in the group. But he delivers a lot of that kind of humor, which is always my favorite in the horror realm. And like I said, how they're able to play with him because of his background and some of the stereotypical tropes that come in and around that, just really, really solid stuff for him. And then my dark horse, I think the funniest person in the entire movie, and was a character that I didn't know what to expect from, and that is Jermaine Fowler, who plays Clifton. And Clifton is just he's a character you don't see coming. You know, he's kind of like the nerdy person in the group. He's a little socially awkward, but man, does he have some of the best one-liners in this freaking movie. The hardest laughing moments in the film almost always were coming from Clifton, and there's a lot of depth to his character that I wasn't necessarily expecting that make him very interesting as you kind of play throughout the course of the movie, and where he fits in the group, and like I said, how he's able to contribute in some of the moments, like when they're playing the game, or just different areas. Like, he really caught me off guard, and I was pleasantly surprised with his character start to finish. Then there are a couple white people in this movie. You have, of course, your villain. Our villain here, when they're finally revealed, is, you know, a person in a blackface mask, very Jim Crow era, but it's kind of demented and it's got stitching and stuff, and it's a cool looking mask to play with what they're doing with in the movie. And the thing that I like about the killer is that they're very brutal, you know, and they don't mess around, and, you know, the scares that come with the killer I enjoy, and it's one of those things where, you know, not, you know, mild spoiler when I say that it's a white character, but when the face mask is on, like, you can see the eyelids and stuff, so you know that the person chasing them around is a white person, which is one of those things where, as the movie progresses, I was very interested to see what the motivation was, who this person was, and why they seem to be targeting this group. And that's something that I think the movie does unbelievably well, and is one of the things that I think makes it the most successful. And then last but not least, Ranger White. I love that they called him Ranger White first and foremost. And then I really loved that it was played by Diedrich Bader. I am a huge Bader fan, man. Being a Batman guy, Batman Brave and the Bold, he is one of my all-time favorite Batman voices. Like, when it comes to that, it's Kevin Conroy 1, and then for me, it's Diedrich Bader at 2. And what's fun is, like, as a white person watching this movie, I was able to figure out so many things about Diedrich Bader just because of where Diedrich Bader plays inside of pop culture, and just like what Bader traditionally is inside of a movie. Like, his character popped up, I was like, I know who this guy is. I know what's going on. And how they play, like, it honestly felt like Perkins and Oliver were purposely playing with this character the way that they do because it's Diedrich Bader. And for me, that kind of laid in some really wonderful elements. And as always, he's super, super funny. And at the end of the day, man, I mean, everybody that's here is just super funny. And the movie overall is a good time start to finish. And, like, when you get to the end, like, you get there and you're like, that was a damn good movie. So let's give this thing a score, man. Get the Maniacs up. Like I said, I think Oliver and Perkins, from a writing standpoint, just do tremendous things, whether it's, you know, tackling black tropes inside of horror movies or black culture, and how you kind of blend those worlds together, and the satire that comes from it. Like I said, if you're a black person, or you are someone who grew up, you know, consuming black media, like, you're going to laugh your ass off non-stop. And that's the thing I love about this movie, is that Perkins and Oliver know exactly what this movie is, who their audience is, and they just lean full into that. And if that's what you're looking for, I promise you it's going to be a phenomenal time. You throw in Tim Story, who's just, you know, a seasoned director who knows how to handle these things, done movies that kind of deal with some of this subject matter, and it was kind of fun to see Story playing in the horror realm, man. Like, he sets up wonderful moments where you get some legit scares, but also tease things up where, like, the gags and things, everything hits. The pacing here is nice. The score and soundtrack mixes really add in. And, like, at the end of the day, this thing is, I think, about 90 minutes long. So you're in, you're out, and your cast is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, for me, like I said, Dewayne Perkins and Jermaine Fowler, I think, are the two MVPs. They really carry a lot of the hardest laughs. But this whole thing is a true-to-God ensemble, man. Whether it's Robertson or Walls or Byers or Gregg or Mayo, everybody that shows up is bringing their best. And it just creates a movie that, like, if this is the movie you're looking to go watch, you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. I'm going 4 out of 5 Maniacs for this one. I mean, I don't have too much to complain about, man. Like, it makes you laugh. It does exactly what I was hoping for it to do, and then some, right? Like, there were layers and elements to this movie that I didn't see coming, that when they hit, I was like, Damn, man, let's go. This movie was fantastic. If you are looking for a laugh out loud comedy, if you're looking for a fun horror movie, I think this is the one to go check out. The Blackening for the Seaman is a real good time at the movies, especially if you can get a packed crowd. Like I said, my theater was jam-packed, and everybody was having a good time, which just enhanced the movie-going experience even more. But I'm done. Now I want to hear from you guys, man. What are you thinking? If you got out to see The Blackening, did you think that the, horror movie tropes and the cultural tropes and things that they were kind of poking at worked from a humor standpoint? Did you think the horror worked? What did you think about the cast? Who popped? How well did they mesh? Did it not work for you? And if you haven't seen it, have we enticed you? Have we pumped you up? Do you want to go check out The Blackening? Maybe, this week coming up, you're like, hey, I got some time. I'd like to go see a comedy. Maybe this is for you. If you're those people, I want to know, man, are you going to go see The Blackening in theaters? Are you going to wait for it on streaming? Is this just not something for you? Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent on The Blackening, put it down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man anytime we talk movies, TV, trailer reactions. Like I said, we got another comedy to talk about. I also went and saw No Hard Feelings. So if you want to be here for any of those things, you just dig the vibe of the C-Man, you want to show a little love and support, well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. It's super easy. All you got to do, jump over there, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace! Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got two video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.